Hello, everybody, and welcome to the BNT, where the tea is hot, but the subjects are even hotter. Today, I'll be giving my 2 cents about what I consider to be a major problem that, throughout the whole pandemic and afterwards, has shown its ugly face far more than it ever should have. I'm talking about hateful speech and dishonesty towards the LGBTQIA. I know this is sadly still a controversial topic, and I hope I won't make mistakes, but if I do, please reach out to me so I can learn. Now, let's get into the topics. Alright, so topic number 1 is LGBTQIA. What do I think? Alright, so here I'll be giving my 2 cents about the whole debacle. And I just want to say right off of the bat, I fully support them. I support trans rights. I support every single person in the LGBTQIA+. And I wouldn't want to be found dead within the stigma of, those conservative. Yes, I wouldn't sorry. I wouldn't want to be found dead within the, stigma of the conservative guy that starts a podcast just to vent their, frustration with the whole world, because that is a big part of why I'm making this whole podcast to begin with. It's in my opinion, it's quite disgusting. It's distasteful, and I really don't like it. So yeah, LGBTQIA. I mean, that could be an answer in and of itself, right? Like LGBTQIA plus. What do I think? I fully support them, and I want people to know that on my podcast, my channels, my Twitch, whatever, everybody is welcome from all walks of life. So if you're it doesn't matter what skin color, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter how you were born, where you were born. All that matters to me is who you are as a person, right? And I believe that there have been people in the past that may have represented certain groups of people for the worse. I think that is a common problem in nowadays society, that every single group has, it doesn't matter how good the intent is behind the group. So, for instance, I don't like the extreme right-wingers. I really don't. Those are what we consider to be the conservatives, the people who wholly believe in, what they deem to be correct. I think I don't, such as you often. Okay, so I'm sorry. What you often see is that right-wingers tend to be more racist, more unaccepting. Fundamentally, that is what conservatives means. It means that you want things to stay as they are. You're opposed to change, even though change, is what brings the betterment of the species. That's what the whole... I mean, that's kind of what evolution is, right? We see changes, we observe changes, and if the changes are for the worse, they will die off. And if they are for the better, they will continue to persist and create a better colony, a better life for everyone within that species, right? So I think change is good. I think we should be more accepting, and I think that people who stoically hold on to their own beliefs, and often it's beliefs like racism is not wrong, right? That's and I just want to say my opinion on that. Yes, racism is wrong in every single sense of the word. It's terrible and it's terrifying that people still, they still think that it's okay to be racist in the current day and age, even though all it is it's hate, and it's terror. You're wreaking terror upon a group of people for something that they cannot change, right? Because if you tell someone to piss off, excuse my French, if you tell someone to piss off because they keep kicking sand in your face, that's different than telling someone to piss off they can't be there because they were born a certain way and they can't freaking change it. And I think with sexuality and gender, it's much the same thing. And I think that something that conservatives do a lot is they muddy the water, right? So I want you to, my 2 cents on it is gender and sex are 2 different things. So sex is what you were born with. Gender is how you identify. And I think that as humans, as an intelligent species, intelligent enough to have made a language and like be able to understand what that language is, to people who are listening to this podcast, you can understand what I'm saying. I think that a part of that is that we can understand that how things appear to be may not always be how they are. So people can just feel the way they feel, and that is still correct. Just because we give a different word to it doesn't mean that it's incorrect, right? So, example. I'm sorry. I'm a little nervous, this is a controversial topic and I don't want to say the wrong things, right? I don't want to misconstrue my opinion because I want to show people that I am accepting and not, a bad person. Alright, so, example. We have colors, right? And the conservatives will preach that red is red, blue is blue, for instance, because that's how it's always been, and that's how it always should be. But the words red and blue are man-made constructs. We thought to call all the colors that we perceive as red, to call that the color red. Whereas it doesn't have to be. It's words and descriptions are man-made constructs. At any point in time, we can say that horses are cows and cows are horses. And as long as the vast majority of that enforces it, and the people of the higher-ups enforce it, which won't happen, of course, but, it's an example. For all intents and purposes, horses are then cows, and cows are then horses. Like, for what are cows and horses in concept than the words that we give to them? All that matters is we observe the animal, we observe the being that's there, and we give a certain word to it to describe, the way that we perceive it. And a lot of people, observe things differently. So, for instance, back to the red and blue, because those are, primary colors, and that's easy. Colorblind people. People who cannot perceive colors the way that the norm does, right? The vast majority of people. Well, actually, I don't know how many people are colorblind, but I'm just gonna assume that most people are not colorblind for sake of argument, alright? If you're colorblind, and you cannot perceive red the way that other people do, does that mean that it's no longer red? To them, no. It might be a different color, it might be something else, but they might name it red because they see other people point towards that color and say that's red. And maybe what they see is green, maybe what they see is a completely different color altogether. But they see that and they'll call it red, even though to them they perceive it differently. So there is no objective truth in naming things, in describing things, because the way we describe them is from our point of view. And I think it's very important to see that as social animals, other people have other points of view, and that should be respected, and we should try to learn from it. That's growth. That is how an intelligent species should be. And I think that's normal. I think that is what we should do. It's the way that we perceive things, right? So is a colorblind person less valid because they perceive the color as something else? No, of course not. Nobody's gonna say, well, there might be some people, but I would call them extremists, because why would you ostracize someone for being colorblind? Anyway, back to the argument. Is a colorblind person less valid than someone who perceives colors according to the norm? No, of course not. So why should people with different genders be perceived as lesser? I think that is ridiculous, and I think it's utterly idiotic, to be like completely honest. People are different. People perceive life in different ways. People are people, you know? For all intents and purposes, people are people. You know, like, you know how Kent Hovind, which will come up later, says like, I believe all dogs create dogs, Hovind. People are people. You know, it doesn't matter if you prefer partners of the male gender. It doesn't matter if you prefer partners of the female gender. It doesn't matter if you prefer partners of the non-binary genders or anything in between and around, right? That doesn't matter because you live the life you want, right? And if it's not hurting others, which I have to say LGBTQIA plus members are not hurting others, if you're not hurting somebody else, live the life you want. Live the life the way you want to, right? I still think it's idiotic that it's a that is still a controversial topic because of like people like for instance, I'm gonna roll in like Ben Shapiro. Don't worry, he's not on my podcast. Like I have like 5 returning viewers. Are you kidding me? No. But people like Ben Shapiro, they will try to weasel their way out of things using false logic. So, for instance, a statement that he's made is like, "Why aren't you 60? Why aren't you 60?" And it's because age is like time is a set thing, but people can feel a different age. You know, not everybody who is 50 or 60 perceives themselves as age 50 or 60. Does that matter? Should we like tell them that they're wrong? Like, no, feel older. No, that doesn't matter. And even then, age is not a man-made construct. That's something that was there before we put a name on it. Gender, however, is not. Gender is something that we put on people. And just because gender and sex have been used through each other, like as replacements of each other, that doesn't mean that it is. Even scientifically, it's wrong to say that someone's gender is automatically their sex, because sex is biological, gender is not. And this is what I hear a lot of people say, and a lot of conservatives either don't acknowledge it or they just they wave it away because they know that it disproves their point. It's just ridiculous, you know. And then again, they say like with the people that we're gonna be looking at today, a lot of them claim homosexuality is not natural, and like, okay, so we're taking the homosexuality from the LGBTQIA+, right? Because that is something that, you know, that an example, right? They say that homosexuality is wrong and people should be persecuted and punished for feeling the way they do. Again, I do not. I firmly do not. But that's what they think. So one of the things that they will say is homosexuality is not natural. To which I say, do you know how many animals in nature, how many dogs, how many, like, whatever animal have showed signs of homosexuality? And with signs of homosexuality, I mean mating behavior towards other males. It happens quite a lot, actually. In fact, I'm going to pull up a statistic. Homosexual behavior in animals. Alright, here we go. On Wikipedia. Okay, has been documented in over 450 species of animals worldwide. Okay, so this is straight from Wikipedia, and this is like on top of the page on the article Homosexual Behavior in Animals. They say, various non-human animal species exhibit behavior that can be interpreted as homosexual or bisexual. This may include same-sex sexual activity, courtship, affection, pair bonding, and parroting among same-sex animals. Same-sex animal pairs, sorry. So, for instance, there are a lot of observed cases of penguins, of two male penguins taking care of a child and bonding, and, would that be considered homosexual behavior? And I think yes. Various forms of this are found in every major geographic region and every major animal group. The sexual behavior of non-human animals takes many different forms, even within the same species, though homosexual behavior is best known from social species, because animals who tend to be in social groups will have more observable mating rituals, mating behavior, but also just affection behavior, because for instance, non-social animals are not going to be interacting with same animals of the same species as often as social animals. So it's easier to discern the behavior from social animals because they usually already are within their own pack. So yeah, it happens, and it happens a lot, up to, what was it? And this is only what has been documented in over 450 species of animals worldwide. 450 species, not just humans. So it's not unnatural, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to claim that it's unnatural and that it should be punished, because it's not hurting anyone. People just want to love. People just want to be social animals because that's what they are, and they are prohibited from doing so, and I think that's disgusting, and it needs to change where it hasn't already. Alright. But that's enough for that topic, because I'm getting really heated. Let's go to the second topic, which is, can religion coexist with LGBTQIA+ and other people? So, other people, I mean people who are not religious, people who have different religions, And to that, I want to say yes. Yes, I believe they can. I believe it's possible, but things need to change. So, for instance, I have a friend which I talked about in my previous video that I made about Kent Hovind, and to a very lesser extent Matt Powell, which I will be talking about shortly. He thinks he is a religious person, right? So he is someone who believes in God, and I'm completely cool with that. I always have been. It just means for instance, I use the HE double hockey sticks, I use that sometimes to say what the H, right? And I said that multiple times. And at some point, I think the subject came up, and he said no, it's fine. I won't use that. I will not use those words because I believe that is not okay. So whenever I talk to him or talk with him, I try to keep it to a minimum because I want to support his beliefs. Right? Because I didn't know back then that was something that is frowned upon in the religious community, and that's something he doesn't want to do. So what do? I try to change my behavior for the better to make him more comfortable, because he's a good friend and I appreciate him. He also thinks that homosexuality is fine. It's completely fine. He says, wait, hold up. I have the quote. So, his quote directly from him. First off, I have no problem with homosexuals. I think we should just let people be people and live their lives however is best for them, so long as they aren't hurting anybody, which they are not. I also want to say that folk who use the Bible to justify their hatred are missing the entire point of the book. So, do I think that religion can coexist with other people? Yes, absolutely. And this friend of mine is the prime example. A lot of people are like this, right? A lot of religious people share the same belief as my friend. And though there are bad apples, I want to specify that the belief system itself, it's not the problem in this case, right? I have opinions on certain aspects of religion, but people who just follow the Bible as a moral compass on many parts of it. For instance, I know that my friend, the one that I just quoted, doesn't endorse slavery, even though the Bible has done that. You know, it's a terrible thing, and he disagrees with that entirely. But he believes that the overall message of the book, like love thy neighbors, is something that he believes in and something that he follows. And I think that should be respected by atheists, but also people of other religions, agnostics, of which I believe I myself am an atheist agnostic. I don't know what's out there, and I'm not going to claim that I know because I don't, right? But I respect everyone, as long as they don't use their religion as a crutch for their hatred, which is also what my friend's saying. And he's a fantastic person, right? I was gonna say terrifying. I mean terrific. He's a terrific person, and I appreciate him with all my heart. And you know, he's nice. He's an example of the good eggs in the community. But sure, there are bad eggs. There are bad apples in the basket, and the bad apples spoil the bunch. You know? And I think that should change. However, we'll come back to change and solutions in a later topic, because right now we're going to talk about who are the bad eggs. So I'm going to give examples and very short summaries of why I think they're bad eggs. First off, Kent Hovind, of course. I made a whole video about it. It's going to be a series, hopefully, where I talk about the evil, nasty things that Kent Hovind has done. And he's a young Earth creationist. Does that mean that all people within the young Earth creationists are evil, are bad people? No, I don't think so. I think that people can change. I think that they can change their worldview if it hasn't already. And there are a lot of creationists that dislike Kent, that have shown their disgust towards Kent and his actions, because Kent himself, there is much proof for what I'm about to say, so don't say that it's not true. It's also in the previous video, where he is a domestic, he's a proprietor, he's domestically violent. He has hurt his wives in the past, or at least one that we know of that's been documented, and he has hurt his children. In fact, he's proud of that. I think that he's a narcissistic, evil, sociopathic person who cannot think about the well-being of others because he cares too much about himself. I think he's a terrible person. He hates the LGBTQIA+ community. He thinks they should all be persecuted. Which brings me to the next topic, his subordinate, his little henchman, Matt Powell. Matt Powell is someone who has gone on record to say, I think that the homosexuals should be rounded up and executed. And then he tries to soften the blow by saying, no, I think we should do it humanely, but yeah, I think they should be put to death. Which is an awful thing to say and an awful thing to do, and I don't want to dwell on it much longer, because he is a hateful, spiteful, terrifying person, and he's becoming a mini Kent. And that sounds terrifying, and in practice, it's even more terrifying. It's awful, it's terrible. To think that people should be put to death for trying to love. Dude. What weird... Who hurt you? Who hurt you, Matt? Who hurt you? Were it other religious people? Was it you? Did you get... Was your dog a little too fond of other male sex dogs? And then he bit you? Is that what happened? Is that what happened, Matt Powell? I bet that's what happened. Nah, of course not. That's idle speculation. But you know what I'm talking about. Kent Hovind is a disgusting man, and I have a lot of proof. But with Matt Powell, he doesn't hide it. He's just outwardly evil. borderline demonic. Speaking of demonic, Kenneth Copeland, a very religious person and the owner of a megachurch. People say that he's a pastor, but I don't want to give him that honorary title because honestly he doesn't deserve it. His megachurch is a business and it's a scam. He scams people because he says, okay, so one of the quotes, and I might be paraphrasing here, excuse me if I am, but during the height of the coronavirus, he said, I don't care if you have to get out of your house and slide your money under the door of the church, but do so. So he is actively instigating the behavior of, even when you're sick, go outside, even though if that may mean serious harm to you and the people around you, just as long as he gets the money. And that is disgusting. It doesn't really have a lot to do with the LGBTQIA plus people, but it's disgusting behavior that I just want to say right off the bat. Terrible person. However, he's also he's come into popularity worldwide, not very recently because of a clip of a reporter asking him why he has a private jet, where he basically backhandedly says that he thinks other people are beneath him. Right? Other people are demons, and then she confronts him with this, to which he responds very aggressively, and then immediately goes back to his creepy smile. And I've said it before, Kenneth Copeland is the devil given flesh, because the way he looks, the way he talks, the things he does is really nothing short of demonic. He is a terrifying person, absolutely horrifying, and I cannot believe he's not in jail yet. So, what do all of these people have in common? They don't pay taxes because of their belief, and because they want to make money through that belief. Essentially, what they want to do... So, Kent Hovind is notoriously known for not paying his taxes and tax fraud, tax evasion. Kenneth Copeland, because he owns a megachurch, doesn't have to pay taxes, but they all just want money, right? They use the religion as a means to an end to make money, like a get rich quick and easy scheme, essentially. I think it's terrifying. I think it's terrifying that they use a religion in that way, just to make money, just to preach their hatred and get paid for it. So that brings me to the next topic. What can we do? What we can do is quite simply stop giving them money. Stop instigating bad behavior. Stop rewarding bad behavior. Right? So as a species, what humans tend to do is they will react positively to behavior that they want to see and negatively to behavior that they don't want to see, right? That is like parenting. That is what a lot of animals do in the wild as well. If they're if the offspring of a certain, let's say, God, what is a good example? Like wolves or cats, right? But let's take wolves for the sake of social animal argument, right? So wolves. If wolves in the wild have cubs and their cubs are doing something undesirable, they punish that behavior by growling at them, blocking them, taking them by the scruff of their neck, placing them somewhere else. They're therefore showing them that that behavior is not desirable. If, however, they show positive behavior, they reinforce it by either responding to it positively, helping them. You know, that is social species 101. And I think that the way that we should do it should be a little bit more, fitted to the human species, which is simply stop giving them money. Inform the people that have been roped into those beliefs and roped into those mega churches and into those dinosaur adventure lands. Wink, wink. Tell them that what their what their cult leaders are doing is hateful, terrible, and it's a negative thing for the evolution of the species as a whole. And well, actually, a better thing to say is it's a negative impact on humans as a whole, right? Because sometimes they don't believe in evolution, and you don't have to believe in evolution, right? Like, I believe in evolution personally, but you don't have to, as long as you don't use your... I think people should be educated and then should be able to use their own mind and brain to say, yes, I believe this, or no, I don't, right? Educate people. Make them aware of what the other person is actually doing. Make them aware of the scare tactics. Make them aware of what their megachurch pastors, of what their, just cult leaders. Make them aware of what they are doing, and then try to get them out. So if you're listening to this, and your grandmother or grandfather or friend or family, if they listen to Kent Hovind and they agree with them, have a talk with them. Sit them down. Try to gently explain to them why Kent is a bad person. Do your research. Educate people. I think that is the best thing that we can do at this point in time, because if a person is in power and they have a lot of power and they are bad and negatively influencing other people, I think what we should do is take their power away from them. And power most commonly comes in the form of money. So take the power and therefore take the money away from the giants, and soon their kingdoms shall crumble, essentially. I think that is the best thing we can do. So educate, gently escort them. Don't go in guns blazing. Don't go in like, Grandma, Kent Hovind is a piece of crap and you should leave immediately. Because that way they are gonna get scared and they're gonna run to what they know, because that's what people do. They run to what they know because that's a place of comfort. You have to try and be gentle. You have to try and be smart about it, right? You can't just scare people and expect them to do what you wanted, because the other people, the cult leaders, have already done that far more than you for probably years and years and years, right? So you have to be smart about it. You have to explain it to them calmly, maybe not directly, maybe educate people. And that's what I aim to do with these podcasts. A lot of people may say oh, you shouldn't give them attention, so you shouldn't talk about them. And I believe that is ignoring the problem, and that is not something we should do. So I try to educate people on the past of the other person, the behavior that they're showing still, their ultimate goals, and what we can do to stop it, right? I want to educate people. I want to help people, because I want to see people as happy as possible, which brings me to the last subject, my view of a better future. I want people to be happy. That is my ultimate goal, and I want to do that with my stories, with my music, with whatever I can do, right? But my ultimate goal is I want people to be happy. I want people to live in peace. I want people to be able to get up in the morning, look at the sky, let out a long breath, and say, yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad to be alive, because I know what it feels like to not be glad that you're alive, right? Which also, maybe a spoiler alert, my view on the whole pro-life movement is no, I support abortion, because yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I think people should have the option, because all that's going to happen now is that if you make it illegal, they're going to run to... it's still going to happen, but it's going to happen illegally, and in situations where maybe the instruments haven't been disinfected, so all you're doing is you're creating more problems, man. People have the person who we know is alive and breathing and has a life should be put before the zygote, But that is a whole other topic. I think that I don't believe in spirit personally. I don't know, right? I don't know, but I believe that if a person is having a pregnancy that is going to lead to complications, I think it should be able to nip it in the bud, as they say. You know, it's I think safety goes before everything, and all that abortion is doing in the vast majority of the cases is it guarantees, or close to guarantees, safety for the would-be mothers or would-be fathers, you know, the people that are going through the pregnancy, you know. So I think it's terrifying to try and take that right away from people. I think it's inhuman, and I think it should be an option for people who have been, you know, sexually violated and don't want that person's DNA in a child, you know, which I can completely understand, and I think it's sickening that people still oppose that. I think it's absolutely sickening. They're like, well, then the person should be pregnant, give birth, and we should kill the perpetrator of the sexual violence. No, that is not a solution. You're not helping the mother, you're helping yourself by feeling powerful. No. Or you're not helping the father. You're not helping the person who actually has to go through that whole pregnancy. We can save people's sanity. We can save people's emotional struggles by saying that abortion should be legal. And I firmly think it should. Because it's safer that way. Abortion is still going to happen if it's illegal, but it's going to happen illegally and in not the best conditions. I'm sorry. I got really heated there. My view of a better future is that people are allowed to live the way they want. People be happy. People be satisfied. People be able to look at a sunrise or a sunset and enjoy it, you know? People to get up in the morning and not be afraid that they're going to be persecuted for who they are inside, for who they perceive themselves to be, for, you know, that's all I want. That's all I want. All I want is people to be happy. That's it. Wait. Yeah. It looks like my coffee cup is empty, and that's just in time, because so is my bag of material. At least for this time, you know. I hope to see you next time, and I hope that if you enjoyed the podcast, whatever medium this is on, you liked it, and show your appreciation by, if you liked it, right? It's also possible that you disliked it by liking, commenting, engage with the video, engage with me, engage with the community, you know, talk to people about it. Say, I agree because, or I disagree because. And I love learning from other people, so if you have pointers, if you have oh, you were insensitive here, tell me about it. I want to know. I want to know where I have to change. You know, if I have to, I want to learn, and give me pointers. But that's going to be about it for this podcast, for this little rambling rant. I want to know that I appreciate all of you. You're all beautiful. You're all wonderful human beings. Thank you so much for listening. I hope to see you next time. And you know, if not, that's okay too. I just hope you take care of yourself. You love yourself, because you're worth it. You really are. So I hope to see you next time. Be there or take care.